Remembering the Bible's a good start. I sat down to do this one and left my Bible. So, attempt number 2. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Morning Bible. I've only just had my coffee, so I'm waiting for it to kick in. We are in Luke chapter 15. We are doing sort of the third of the sort of lost things trilogy. I don't know why I'm turning everything into little trilogies at the moment, but I think scripture just kind of lines up like that sometimes. So we had the parable of the lost sheep first and foremost at the beginning of chapter 15, where it's about there are 100 sheep in a field and the shepherd loses one, so he leaves the 99 where they're safe and he goes and finds that one. And he rejoices when he finds it, and that sort of shows how loving God is to us and how much he cares about us. Yesterday we had the parable of the lost coin, which is about a lady who loses a coin, and it's a very valuable coin. It's worth 1/5 of an ox or 1 sheep. I'm never going to forget that for as long as I live now. And so this lady, she searches all over the house, she finds it, she celebrates, invites all her friends around and they celebrate. And that shows how valuable we are to God and how useful we are to him as well. Not that we're useful in a sense that we do things that he can't do, but we're useful in the sense that he has a plan for us, he has a purpose for us, and he has things he wants to do. He has places he wants to spend that coin. And so today we are onto the third one, which is a much longer one. Will involve more of me reading and less of me talking, because it is the parable of the Prodigal Son, which is one of the most famous parables that Jesus gives, and I think it's one of the most relevant and one of the most impactful ones. So yeah, let's have a read. From verse 11 in chapter 15, it says, "And he said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me.' And the father divided the property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and so he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything." So we have a father, fairly wealthy father. He owns land, he has servants, and he has 2 sons. And one of the sons says, "Hey Dad, can you give me my inheritance now? I want my inheritance now, I don't want to wait. If you could just give me some of that money that I'm owed later, that'd be fantastic." And so his father says, "Okay, sure, I'll give you half of the wealth that I have owed for you now. So it's all yours, go for it." And so the son, pretty much straight away, it says within a few days, he just gathers all his stuff and he's like, "Alright, peace out, bye, thanks for the money," and just leaves. Takes all this money that his father's given him, and he travels to a faraway land. He basically goes travelling and blows all of that money. It doesn't say specifically what, but it says he squandered his property in reckless living. And later his older brother refers to him as spending the money, I think, on prostitutes. So it's kind of, yeah, he's not using the money for the best things, we'll say it like that. He's just kind of blowing this money, just throwing it wherever he wants to. And it's just living this sort of lavish, pleasurable lifestyle, but not actually investing it, not actually using this money, not buying a house, not buying anything valuable, just sort of spending it on cheap thrills. And so that's where the son goes. But this foreign land that he's in, this faraway land, a big famine hits it and the whole economy crashes, and suddenly this guy realizes he's out of money and the land is out of food. There isn't enough food to go around, so food prices have probably shot straight up and this guy's money has completely plateaued and he's got nothing left. And so he gets a job with a local citizen where he just feeds pigs, and he feeds them these pods. I don't know what the pods are specifically. That could have been my fun Google search today. Oh, I missed out. He feeds the guy these pods. He feeds the guy, he doesn't feed the guy the pods. He feeds the pigs these pods for his job. But he gets so hungry that he's looking at these pods saying, "Man, I want to eat them," but no one's feeding him. So that's where we are so far. So keep all that in mind. Verse 17. "But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread to eat, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. And so we see this son, he's like, you know what? My father had servants, and those servants were at least well fed. So I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to ask him if I can just be a servant. I don't want to be his son. He doesn't have to be, my father anymore. He can completely disown me, but just let me work the land. Let me be a servant. Let me just have bread on the table. Let me just do humble work and survive. I'm happy with that. That's what I deserve after blowing this money. And so he decides to go home. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and he ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to celebrate. So, this is like a huge moment. The father, before the son's even close, he sees him. He sees him from a long way off, and he goes, that's my son, I know who that is. And he runs out to see him. He doesn't wait for his son to get there. He doesn't give him the cold shoulder. He doesn't give him any hard treatment. He is so happy to see him back that the father runs. This guy would have probably been quite old at this point, but he runs out to see his son, and he hugs him and he kisses him. And the son says to him, I've sinned, I've done really badly, I've blown all your money, I'm so sorry, I've completely wasted it. All this hard work that you put in throughout all your life to give me this money, I've just thrown all that money away, I've thrown away all your hard work, and I have nothing to show for it. I'm in a worse position now than I was when I left. All that money's gone. His father hugs him, and he embraces him, and he kisses him. And he calls for three things, and these three things, I had a talk a while ago, that sort of explained what these three things mean, and it blew my mind. So his father gets him the best robe, puts a ring on his hand, and puts shoes on his feet. And so what do these three things mean? Well, he gives him the best robe. The best robe shows that he is part of the family. He isn't being welcomed back as a servant. You wouldn't give the servant the best robe, you give your son the best robe. You give your family, you give the one you love most the best robe. And so he's dressed as one who is part of the family, one who is welcomed into the family, as a true member, not as like a pretender, not as a guest, not as a servant. He is a true member of the family. He gives him the ring. So what does the ring mean? Well, the ring would have a seal on it. It would have the family seal on it, and you would need that seal to be able to conduct business, because you would stamp that seal to sign documents, to do transactions, to buy land, things like that. And so the father giving him this ring with the seal on it shows that he has, purpose for the son in his life. He isn't just welcoming into the family, he's giving him tasks to do, he's giving him jobs to do. He's showing that he has a responsibility, he has things that he can do to help, and he's trusting him with the family ring. It isn't just like, oh, I'll give the servant a bit of money to run down the shop. It's like, no, you have authority to do things, you have authority to make decisions and to buy things. And the third one is shoes on his feet. So this one's really interesting. So back in those days, in this part of the world, if you didn't have shoes, it meant you couldn't run, essentially. You needed shoes to be able to run. The ground was really hard, there were a lot of stones, it was really hot, and so if you try run on that in bare feet, then you'll just be in pain. And so prisoners and people who you wouldn't want to escape from things, you wouldn't give them shoes, because they wouldn't be able to run very far without their feet just getting absolutely destroyed. And so if you gave shoes to someone, that then means that person is able to run. And so the father is trusting him with shoes. He's trusting him that he won't run away. Giving him these shoes means that this son could escape, he could run away, he could take money and just flee. But the father's giving him these shoes, saying, no, I trust you. I trust you with these shoes, and I know that you won't run away. He isn't sort of trapping him here. He isn't keeping shoes from him so that the son knows that, he can't leave, he can't run. The father gives him shoes, and he's saying, look, I trust you. I trust you not to stray away from me again. I trust you not to leave me again. And so what does all that mean? Well, hopefully you will have picked up on sort of what this parable's saying. It's essentially God's treatment of us. It's God saying, I welcome you back in no matter what you've done. We've been given so many blessings, so many wonderful things in our lives, and there have been a lot of times where we've turned away from God, where we've gone in the opposite direction. We've gone and squandered all of the things He's given us. We've done terrible things, we've sinned, we've just dishonoured God's name and just been really bad children, awful children. And that's for people who are Christian, non-Christian, whatever background. Everyone's been the prodigal son at some point in their lives, as hard as that is. But when we come back to God, we come back to God with humility. We come back to God saying, Lord, just let me be a servant. Just let me have some bread. Just let me do this. I don't want all these grand things. I just want a bit of forgiveness, enough so that I can just have bread. But the Father's reaction is what God's reaction is to us when we come back to Him, when we apologise. It's this celebration, right? We do something wrong, we fall down far, we turn back to God and say, God, I'm really sorry, I come back to you humbly. And God is celebrating, He runs out, He hugs us, He gives us a kiss. But more than that, He gives us the family robes. So God gives us the best robes. He shows that we are His anointed children, that we are welcomed as part of His family. He gives us the ring. He gives us this seal so that we can go and do business. So God gives us purpose in our lives. He gives us missions. He gives us responsibility with things. He could call us into, something like church leadership or worship, or give us this important job, or help us minister to these people around us. He gives us responsibility as soon as we're back. God doesn't wait. He doesn't wait for us to be good Christians and then sort of work our way in. He's like, no, here's the family ring. I want you to go out and build my kingdom. I want you to go out and buy land and do business. And God gives us the shoes. He says, look, I trust you that you won't run away. I trust you that you are here to stay. I trust you and I welcome you back into my kingdom. God doesn't do all these things waiting for us to sort of fail, like setting up a trap for us, or He doesn't sort of trap us in His kingdom by not giving us shoes. He welcomes us back in and He says, look, you have done this freely, you have chosen to be here freely, and I trust that you will stay. And so it's on us to be able to honour that promise, to be able to honour that trust that God's given us. And there's a huge celebration. He gets the fattened calf. He gets like the best bit of meat there is in the land. And He brings it and He celebrates with us the fact that we've come back to Him. There's this huge party in heaven whenever we turn back from our sinful ways. No matter what we've done, no matter how terrible we've been, God will always celebrate when we come back to Him. And that's such a beautiful thing, because there have been so many times in my life where I know that I've gone far away from God, but when I've come back, it's, you don't feel like you deserve a celebration, but God celebrates because He's so happy to see you. And the same thing goes for all of you watching this. It's really good. Now, there's a little bit left in this passage, and this little bit's quite interesting as well. So let's read the last little bit from verse 25. Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him, but he answered his father, look, these many years I have served you and never disobeyed your command, and yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him. And he said, son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead, and is alive. He was lost, and is found. And that's the end of chapter 15. So the story doesn't quite give us the last bit of this. We see the older brother is angry. He's upset because he's been loyal to his father the whole time. He didn't squander his inheritance. He didn't run away. He didn't do all these terrible things. He stayed and was faithful. And yet his father is celebrating the younger sinful brother coming back. He's throwing a big party, and the older brother's saying, well, where's my party? Where's my party for just being here, for just being faithful? And that's something that I think as Christians, there are times where we struggle with that. We're sort of you can be sort of on the straight and narrow. You can be sort of doing well in your faith. I put inverted quotes around that because it's never quite like that. If you think you're doing well in your faith, then you need to sort of reevaluate things and work harder. There's always a step up wherever you are in your faith. But there will be times where you think, I haven't fallen away from God massively. I haven't had all these issues. I've been spending time with God. I've been working hard with God. Where's my reward? And that's actually just as dangerous of a mindset to have as the son who walks away and squanders the inheritance, because you start to see it as a transactional thing between you and God. You start to see it as, I'm doing good things, where's my celebration, where's my feast? I'm a good person. Why is that horrible person over there getting loads of fuss made about them when they've just come back to God, maybe, yet I don't get anything, and I've been a Christian for 10 years, 20 years, 40 years. Where's my celebration? That's such a dangerous mindset to have. That's such a dangerous thought to have going in your heart, because that just corrupts your whole relationship with the Father. That corrupts the whole thing. And so the Father warns about that at the very end. He says, "Son, you are always with me. All that is mine is yours." So it's this big wake-up call. He's like, you think you don't have rewards? You think you don't have blessings? You've been with me the whole time. You have everything I have. All that I have is yours. That's God saying to us, look, the kingdom is ours. The kingdom of God is ours. Why are we looking for earthly rewards? Why are we looking for a party here or a feast here or a celebration or someone to pat us on the back and say good job when we have the kingdom of heaven? What more can we want? What more can we ask for? We already have everything that the Father has to offer us. We already are welcomed into that. So why are we getting jealous of someone else having the celebration? He said, "It's fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found." So the Father says, look, we're celebrating because someone's come back from the dead. We're celebrating because someone who was far away from God, who was dead in the water. That's, when Jesus says someone was dead and is now alive, that is a very real thing, of dead in the kingdom. They have no eternal life. They don't have that tie with God. To then come back to that and then have life, Jesus is saying, look, that's as big as someone coming back from the dead, as being raised from the dead. That's how significant that is for someone. And so that's something you should be celebrating. You should be glad about that. And you shouldn't be complaining and being jealous, because you've already got everything. You've already got the kingdom of heaven. And the story ends there. It doesn't give us the son's final reaction to that. It doesn't give us what the son thinks, whether the son has a change of heart, because that's a challenge directed at us. That's a challenge saying, look, you're already a follower. The fact that you're reading this parable shows that you're likely already in that second son's position. So what are you going to do about it? How are you going to address these issues? If these issues are in your heart, how are you going to deal with them? And if you're in the position of the first son, then you've got a big celebration coming ahead of you. So yeah, such a good chapter. Sorry, this is a long video, but it's been so worth it. That is the end of chapter 15. Absolutely brilliant chapter. Chapter 13 and 14 are quite challenging and quite hard in some senses, but you get to chapter 15 and it's this huge sort of story of acceptance and grace and love that God has for you. It's so good, so good. I'm going to leave that there because this is getting just longer and longer. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Much love. Bye bye bye.